COVID-19 affected us so badly. Our business just went on a shutdown. We used to pick up kids from school and bring them to the center. They would do homework, we would tutor them, and all of a sudden we couldn't transport them. They were at home and we did nothing. So we had an empty building and we didn't know what to do.
Most people used to meet here. For example, when there's a sickness, we would meet here, we would have prayers regularly, Kenyans. And also if somebody died or something like that, we met here, right? We did our memorials here, we fundraised here and stuff like that. After the pandemic, we couldn't do that anymore.
Put your hand in your neighbor's pockets. Remove whatever is in there, bring it here.
This is not the countries where you sign a contract and then you go argue about it in court. This is what you signed, this is what you do.
It's every parent's joy while abroad to bear identity and have that sense of belonging. As new offspring come forth, the need to have them acquainted with their origin is by language. Unfortunately, the only place thousands of Kenyan parents could take their children to learn simple Swahili words like jambo, habari gani, mzuri, nyama choma, name them, was shut down by government at the peak of COVID-19 in Baltimore, Maryland, leaving a sense of hopelessness to over 15,000 Kenyans living here. To show just how important the Elimu Center was, the Kenyan community raised over 3.5 million shillings to help the proprietors Tom and Julie so as to keep the center open and running. Although COVID-19 restrictions have since been lifted in the US and most businesses are now open, the proprietors share important lessons they learned to keep up with the changing business environment. Hello and welcome to Diaspora Life with me, Pasil Telewa. My co-host Chris visited Elimu Center in Maryland and filed this story. And while there, he also bumped into a Kenyan comedian, Eric Omondi, at a previous event at the center. Take a look of what transpired.
Like any other business, Elimu Tutoring and Training Center, a community center that is owned and run by a Kenyan couple in Baltimore, Maryland, was adversely affected by the outbreak of COVID-19. A thriving and profitable business that had served mostly Kenyans in Maryland for more than 10 years, the center was forced to close its doors abruptly because of COVID restrictions.
Wow, COVID-19 affected us so badly. On March, about the 15th, 2020, the governor shut down all non-essential small businesses, and we were one of those. They considered us non-essential because what we did was after-school tutoring. He shut down all the schools, so all the school children were quarantined. They were at home, so our business just went on a shutdown. So we used to pick up kids from school and bring them to the center. They would do homework, we would tutor them, and all of a sudden we couldn't transport them. They were at home and we did nothing. So we had an empty building and we didn't know what to do.
It is estimated that there are between 10 to 15,000 Kenyans living in the city of Baltimore and its suburbs. It's also believed that the Baltimore Kenyan community is also home to one of the largest number of young people under 20 years. For most of these young people, beyond their homes with their parents, the only other place where they learned their first words in Swahili, words like jambo, habari, ugali, or even mboga, was at Elimu Tutoring and Training Center. Elimu Center was also the place where they went for holiday camping, because most of these young people didn't come from rich families that could afford to take them to training camps, say high in the Poconos Mountains in Pennsylvania.
Most people used to meet here. For example, when there's a sickness, we would meet here, we would have prayers regularly, Kenyans. And also if somebody died or something like that, we met here, right? We did our memorials here, we fundraised here and stuff like that. After the pandemic, we couldn't do that anymore because we are not allowed to congregate, you know. So what we did, we adapted into the remote communication, Zoom, Teams, and stuff like that. We adapted that, and it's become the model now. So as you can see, there have not been many events here in Melimo, physical events, but they have been on Facebook. But we are still the same people that are conducting this. In other words, Melimo had to go ahead and make sure that we acquire a Zoom that is big enough to accommodate a couple hundred people.
Put your hand in your neighbor's pockets. Remove whatever is in there, bring it here. Hello. How are you guys doing? Wapi makofi ya Jullie tafadhali? You are a teacher. Your dialect, your English is very good. Where did you go to school? In the US? Here it's working.
Oh, it's working.
Yes.
I went to school in Kenya.
In Kenya?
Yes.
But she doesn't have Kenyan mannerisms, yeah? You see, you're maybe like an American or a British, but all Kenyans, when you take the microphone, the first thing you do is... I didn't see you do that. Yeah, I didn't see you do that. A lot of applause for Atakabani. Thank you so much for bringing all of us here. God bless you.
So we were affected, but in September when the virtual learning started, because children were able to go back to school, but virtually. Some parents reached out to me and asked me, how can you help? And I told them, I don't know what I can do. But one of the parents actually really pushed me. She said, there's nothing she can do. She has to go to work and her kids have to go to school. So what I did is I went to her house and I looked at how virtual learning was taking place in her house with her 3 children. And as I looked, I said, I could actually do this in Melimo. So that's what we started in September. Kids actually came here. We had a few kids, we separated them. Each child was given a whole table and they were 6 feet apart. They wore their masks the entire time. And we upped our Wi-Fi so that we could support their devices. And they actually went to school while at Melimo. Parents needed us sometimes just for an hour. Some of them needed us 2 hours. Some of them needed us for a longer time. So we were actually able to have kids come in and out, some for tutoring, but some just to be with their teacher. So that has gone on all the way from September all the way to June until they closed school. And then of course the summer camp, we were finally approved to go all out and have a full program. We are now running the summer camp again.
Every Kenyan function that has a small budget takes place here. So from funeral wakes to fundraising for charities, the community met here. That is the reason why when Melimo closed its doors, the whole community was affected. It's also the reason why the Kenyan community could not afford to let it fall like any other business.
We had to pay the rent every month. We actually needed help.
How did you manage to deal with that issue?
We didn't know what to do. I actually started selling masks because I'm a tailor too. I just started making masks, but of course that is not, cannot sustain. So at the very end of the year, our lease was ending and the landlord was just gonna kick us out. So we reached out to our Kenyan community. We actually reached out to a few members of our Kenyan community. And because we actually in October had started giving back to the community and we partnered with a non-profit to issue food. Every Friday we actually have food come in. We had trucks of food, of vegetables and rice and beans and fruits. We then told our partners that we wouldn't be able to sustain that past the end of the year. They were like shocked and they reached out to the whole community and said we will Okoa Melimo. So we had an Okoa Melimo project. It lasted just 2 weeks. We needed $32,000 by the end of the year. But in 2 weeks, the Kenyan community came together and gave us $32,000 in our hands. And we were able to pay the backlog of the lease, and we signed a new lease. So we are actually on the next lease for the next 2 years.
Now what we need to do is to remodel. The old model is not going to work again for businesses that are coming up. And you can see the people that are here today have changed their motto now. They're not going to be selling in their house. They're going to be coming out and using Facebook, social media, stuff like that to get their clientele. So I'm going to say we are back. We're not going to be doing school transportation anymore. That's not going to work. But we'll remodel tutoring into the online platform. So even though things will change, our mission remains the same. We are actually now formalizing Elimu Community Center as a non-profit 501c. It's registered and everything's going on. So within a month or two, this place will be officially a community center, not just by name, but actually official by registration and everything else. So we're very excited. I'm not saying that we're happy pandemic happened, but we are very excited because the pandemic actually opened our eyes into possibilities that we hadn't thought of before, So this is a new normal. We're trying to take advantage of it. We will. We're not trying. We will.
Elimu Center opened its doors in summer last year, in part because the COVID-19 cases had dropped thanks to the availability of vaccines. One thing that Tom and Jullie have learned is the fact that they have to do things differently. They have learned that businesses that reimagine their operations would perform best in the next normal.
First of all, many of our people in this community are not people who get grants or handouts from the government. I mean, culturally, we just don't believe in handouts. We just work and work hard. So our community came out stronger because we are not used to be given anything. So when the pandemic went down and all these other people were having issues, stuff like that, we came out to be the community that's actually giving out food. For example, every Friday in this location, every Friday from 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, we give perishable vegetables. We give vegetables in here. And our community comes, of course, some Kenyans come, but mostly Americans come. Meaning we have come out in such a way that we're even serving the community here, not just the Kenyan community, but the American community in other countries as well. I think that's an indication of how we are coming back stronger. We have positioned ourselves. We have decided to own wherever we are and do what we need to do. The future is bright. As I said earlier, this thing woke us up. Life was too mundane. We were comfortable with what we were doing. We were comfortable in our zones. But then we were shaken a little bit out of those zones. And therefore, we decided to venture in other things. Because you're not just going to sit back and perish and you have children, you have family, stuff like that. That opened our eyes in a way that is going to change. And this community is going to be bigger going forward. As the country is growing, you can see the country is growing right now. Things are opening up, stuff like that. They're opening up with us. This is a good example, this expo we're having over here, because we did it last week. I think we did it like a month ago or something, a few months ago. But then it came back by public demand. That people, why don't we have another one? I mean, people want to come and shop, people want to get out. And this is not just Americans. I think not just Kenyans. I think you've been here and you've seen other people from Americans and stuff like that. So I think we're going to be better, we're going to be stronger, we're going to make a mark. Let me talk for Baltimore. Baltimore is going to make a mark now moving forward.
Awesome. This lastly, shout outs to Kenyans back at home who are watching you right now, speaking to them so eloquently like this.
Oh, yeah. First of all, that's our country. That's my motherland. That's my country. It's very dear to us. For some time, we get stressed a little bit over the things that are going this way, that way, stuff like that. But it's still very dear to us. And if you get an opportunity to come to Baltimore, ask for Baba Mora in Baltimore. I'll show you the ropes around. I'll probably help you zero. This is a Elimu Community Center. It's a place you can set in here, set foot in here, and we'll work with you one way or the other to help you.
Other communities have discovered us, the Nigerian community, the Rwandese, the Ugandan, and some Americans. So we're serving the entire community.
From Baltimore, Maryland, we cross over to Delaware, where Chris sat down with Dr. David Amakobe, a Kenyan small and medium enterprises startup expert who explains to us how Kenyan businesses in the diaspora can adapt to changes and how to mitigate any sort of unforeseen disasters. You got pen and paper? Take some notes.
First of all, we have to look at what the pandemic required for us to survive. It requires us to keep a distance. We have to find ways of doing business without being close. Things like you have now to sign things digitally.
Yeah.
You have to have meetings virtually. And therefore, you have to develop trust in technology. So that is key, meaning that the technology that was forced on us because of the pandemic is not going to go away. So if somebody is waiting for things to get back to normal so that they can continue doing business, they'll be late.
Yeah.
So the key issue that the pandemic created was technology and trust in the systems.
Yeah. And that's very important because, like they always say, you know, we're not going to go back to the normal. Now this is the new normal, as it is. You know, I know you are working with a lot of Kenyan businesses, especially based here in the US, who are affected by COVID-19, and I know that you took part in the vaccination. How are things right now as we speak?
I would say there's a group of people who thought that this thing will pass and they'll go back to doing business the way they used to do. And there's a group of people who knew that they have to adopt to survive. And then there is a group of people who saw an opportunity in the pandemic. So there are businesses that were born out of the pandemic. And you know, opportunities always arise out of situations like this.
A crisis, yes.
Out of a crisis. Most of the time, during times of crisis, there's the danger and there's the opportunity. If you concentrate on the danger and shelter, the opportunity will pass you by.
That's right.
So I think that how the pandemic has changed the business environment is that way. The people who adopted technology and the people who saw opportunity in the pandemic.
And of course, like many people are saying that, you know, especially those you know, virtually based, online based companies have made a killing. You know, companies like Amazon, like Google, they've definitely made a killing during this pandemic season. Because of course, no, this is a diaspora life, and you know, we focus really a lot on Kenyans in the diaspora. In the past, we saw Kenyan businesses start up, especially in the health industry where you're working right now. But for some reasons, there were always all those scandals falling. You know, from time to time you read that the guy who started this nursing company has been taken to court, and now they're facing the law. Can you speak to why that became so common?
This is a matter of cultural upbringing. Most Kenyans grew up in an environment, or a controlled environment. They went to class, they sat down when the teacher came, they stood up, they raised their hand. So they had a controlled environment. Somebody was always backstopping them. And they come to an environment where it's free, but you need to know what is right. Okay?
Yes.
So, if you grow up in an environment where there is always somebody the other side telling you how far you can go, now you come into an environment whereby you have to know the rules and you need to stop when you have to stop. Like, there is no person, there's nobody standing at the guardrail telling you, stop here. We are used to fences that are barbed wire, that are steel. We come to a country where there is tape. Red tape you don't cross.
Yeah.
In Kenya, when somebody sees a rope or a tape, he just lift it up and
or cut it and go through it.
go through it.
Yeah.
So take that mentality and carry it to healthcare or to businesses here, where is self-regulation. You are approved to do business, but the approving authority understands or thinks you know the law, you know the rules, you shouldn't cross it. It's more like being allowed into the bank, and you enter the bank and you find there's nobody. So what do? Do you take your money and sign the cheat and go? Or do you take all the money?
Yeah.
Okay? That has been the problem with majority of Kenyans, or even Africans, I say,
Yeah.
where they are supposed to authorize or approve payment by patients. In their mind, well, if they can add a zero, they can add a zero.
Yeah.
They shouldn't add a zero because that's the law. Or did they read the document that they are signing? Most of the time, most of these countries, people sign pieces of paper, they don't even know what they're signing. They think something to go by. Here, when you are signing a contract, you're signing a contract. Everybody expects you to have read it, understood it, and operationalize it. Some of the businesses I've worked with, you find people have signed an agreement, say like even a simple document like an ownership document. They say, okay, we are setting up this company, we have 100 shares, each share is $100, and we shall divide equally for everybody to pay. Maybe there are 5 people, and 5 people divided by 100, they are getting 20 shares, everybody's supposed to bring 2,000.
Yeah.
And you find this one person who thinks they are smarter than everybody else. So they don't pay the money upfront because they are thinking this thing will not work. But they are hedging their bet that since they agreed in the beginning that they are supposed to get 20 shares, they can wait 20 months or 20 years. If he succeeds, they come back and want to pay what they were supposed to pay in the beginning.
Yeah.
That ability to know that you have to be a person of your word and you must take risk at the same time, and you mustn't go to the edge and jump over the cliff, is the problem I see with the companies, the Kenyan companies, the African companies that I work with. And I have like to tell them, before you sign a contract, read it, understand it, and internalize it, that this is exactly what you are expected. This is not the countries where you sign a contract and then you go argue about it in court. This is what you signed, this is what you do.
Unfortunately, all things must come to an end. I hope show ilikubamba as we look forward to seeing all our new businesses thrive, regardless of the circumstances. That's all time could allow us to share. Many thanks for watching Diaspora Live, and join us again next week and every Friday at 8 p.m. Kenyan time on KTN News for stories of Kenyans with diaspora experiences. If you have a remarkable story worth sharing, don't hesitate. Let's help you tell it by writing to us through diasporalife@standardmedia.co.ke or DM us on our social media platforms at diaspora_life and at KTN News KE. Remember to download Standard Fix app for loads of juicy stories, both in Kenya and the diaspora. You can also follow me at Pasil Telewa on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube for more interaction. Wishing you a pleasant evening as I hope to catch up with you again next week, same time, same place. Ciao!